The Marinade.
There's no O in Marinade. Let's try it one more time. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
The Marinade.
Marinade.
Bone marinade. The Marinade.
The Marinade. With Jason Earle.
She looked out the window and said the world's on fire. I just laughed and poured her a glass of wine. We just stared at the TV, trying to find some meaning, hoping that we'd wake up from this dream sometime tomorrow. Well, the night came and went, not a damn thing had changed. That's when I saw a tear fall from her eyes. She said, what are we gonna do? What's this world coming to? And for the first time in my whole life, I stood there speechless.
Welcome to the Marinade with Jason Earle, episode 16, and the great BJ Barham of American Aquarium returns to the show. The last time we talked with BJ, he was on his Great 48 tour. He just released a critically lauded solo record called Rockingham. His bandmates had gone separate ways, and he and his wife and their dog were traveling across the contiguous United States, making a stop in all of the lower 48. At that time, unfortunately, we could only catch up by phone in between gigs in the Midwest. But that was episode 1 of this show, and man, have things changed since then. BJ hired a new band, has had a new addition to the family, has an outstanding new record in American Aquarium's Things Change, and has gone from years of touring in cramped vans with lineup changes and drunkenness to now enjoying sobriety, clarity of mind, married life, fatherhood, and critical acclaim. BJ Barham and the Marinade with Jason Earle have both grown immensely, even in the last year, so this is a special thrill for me. I've long been a fan of BJ's music, and he's been really good at the show since before anyone else was really listening. We caught up recently before his gig with Travis Meadows, who you can catch on episode 15, and Hannah Harber of Hannah Harber and the Lionhearts, who will appear in her own episode very soon. Hannah had a funny moment with BJ that kind of gives a window into the kind of guy he is and the caliber of people he surrounds himself with. So I invited her to record a little intro with us, and so I'm going to let her tell the story, and then you'll hear my conversation with BJ Barham. Also, the song you heard at the beginning of this episode and playing underneath this intro is The World Is On Fire. It's off of Things Change, and it's probably my favorite American Aquarium song of all time. Many of you have no doubt devoured Things Change, but if you're new to American Aquarium's music, go stream this record immediately. It's more than a great rock record. BJ has something incredibly important to say and has done so with impressive clarity. Thank you all so much for listening and supporting the show. Ladies and gentlemen, episode 16, BJ Barham returns.
I got a baby girl coming in the spring.
You didn't even have a capo.
I didn't even have a capo. Oh
Can you-
my goodness.
can you tell
Do
that
have it?
story?
Yes, I will tell the story. So I did at home that day. I kind of ran through some of my songs that I knew I would do. And since I've got a full band as well, to kind of come back to a full set of songs without their accompaniment is a little different. So the arrangements of the songs change a little. So anyway, I'd been working on that at home. I had this one song where I needed a capo. I left the capo at home. So I get on stage, I get all set up, and I just had a line check. So I open my guitar case, I put my strap on, I realize I don't have a capo in my case. So I go down to the merch table and talk to Pigs, and he's like, oh, just take the one off BJ's headstock. It'll be fine. Of course it'll be fine. What could go wrong? So if you were at the show, people listening, the guitars on stage, there were so many instruments on stage, and Will's stage is not huge. So I like tiptoe around, I grab BJ's capo, put it on my guitar. The song I played that needed it was like the third song in, I think. And I go to take the capo off my guitar, and the thing literally just like falls apart into two pieces in my hands. And there was like that because Will's also isn't very big in front of where the stage is. And so people standing there were like, oh, she just broke that. Oh, no. And so it was fine. I just play the rest of the set. But was it a Sunday or a Monday?
It was a Monday.
A Monday night. So at this point, it's like 9 p.m. So I'm like, as I'm playing the rest of my set, I'm racking my brain. Like, where can I go right now to even go buy him a new capo? Like, he's going to need this in a half an hour, you know?
Yeah.
So I get off the stage and I go down to Pigs. I'm like, I'm so sorry. And Pigs just chuckles and he's like, oh, look at this thing. It was bound to break soon or whatever. And so then I'm still just like, oh, God, I got to tell BJ. Oh, I broke it. Like, what a dummy. You know? Of course this happens to me. So BJ comes in, he talks to Pigs, and I'm like standing off to the side of the merch table. And I didn't really even see him come in until he was like making a beeline toward me. And I thought to myself, oh, God, here it comes. And he just grins and hugs me. And he's like, I was about to break it if you didn't. You know, in that nice southern drawl that he has. And I was just like, gosh, how gracious of a human, you know?
Yeah.
And not that I wouldn't have expected that from him.
Right.
But when you're on the road and like your stuff is your stuff, I totally would have understood if he was like, this girl, what the heck, you know? But he was just so kind about it and went on to play his set. I like left him some money. He came back over. He gave me the money. He's like, I have 3 other capos in my case. Like, stop it. You know?
They got a bus now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm on a bus, lady. Enjoy your ride home in your Kia. But yeah, he was just so kind.
Baby, bust right through. The load is heavy and the road is long, and we've only begun to fight. We just can't give in. We just can't give up. We must go boldly into the darkness. The load is heavy and the road is long.
Check. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Hey, hey, hey.
Check.
Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Is that good?
Yeah, we're all good. Dope. Thanks so much, BJ. Thanks again, man. This is really cool.
Yeah.
It's been a year since we recorded what ended up being episode 1 of this podcast while you were on the Great 48.
Yeah.
And we did it by phone. And so, so much has changed. We're sitting here on your bus right now.
Yeah, life has changed a touch since last summer.
It's so amazing. The new record is wonderful.
Thanks, man.
I absolutely love it. I've been really devouring it, and I want to talk a lot about it. But also, like, this really cool thing has happened where I've just found myself, like your music keeps coming up. You and your music, like, keep coming up in really positive ways.
I'm okay with that.
So my good friends Peter and Heather got married recently, and you I don't know if you remember this, but it was on the Great 48 tour. I took Peter to see your show, and he thought he was going to see DJ Barham. And
Is there a DJ Barham?
he just thought he was going to see like a DJ.
A DJ.
Yeah. So he had no idea what he was getting into, and then he fell in love with your music and
Awesome.
and introduced his now wife to Rockingham, and she fell in love with Madeline, the song Madeline, as so many of us have. And so the first dance with her and her father at their wedding a couple of weeks ago.
That's awesome.
She played it for him, and she was like, are you okay with this being the song we dance to? And she said that her father started crying, and that's when she knew it was all right.
Yeah, that is the ultimate compliment.
That's it, right?
You can pay a songwriter is something that I made up and wrote down on paper affects people to the point where they show those kind of emotions. That's exactly what you aim for when you're writing songs. You're writing these songs to evoke something out of someone, So it's nice to see that song meant something to not just her, but her dad. That's the coolest thing.
Yeah, it was a really cool moment. And, and then since then, of course, you've had a baby girl.
Yeah, I've got a little girl, Josephine Pearl.
Congratulations.
At home. Yeah, she's 2.5 months old, and she's a little heartbreaker already, man. She's great.
How is that? Has having her impacted your creative process in any way?
Well, I haven't written any songs since she got here. I wrote songs about her impending arrival.
Yeah.
But I haven't written anything about her actually being here. So I'll answer that question at a later date.
Okay.
For now, though, it's I can tell you right now it's going to inspire years of inspiration.
Yeah.
Because this record inspired just me. The thought of me being a father inspired so much of this record.
Yeah.
Trying to put aside the negative view I had of just about everything in my 20s, and trying to find those little rays of light, and those little rays of hope in really what I consider dire situations. So just watching how my attitude towards life and the general well-being of our country and being on the road, just watching how I view that, and writing about the negative still, because it wouldn't be an American Aquarium record without stating some of the horrible things in my life, but also finding that uptick toward the end, and finding that hope, and leaving people with not a negative song, but something that they can put a little bit of faith in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wrote down the word hope. I think there is, and some. It's been written about this record. In
I think that's
places.
one of the underlying themes for sure.
Yeah.
Perseverance and hope were the two things that I wanted people to take away from this record. I wanted people, obviously, me and this band are a living example of perseverance.
Yeah.
This is, I think, that's the word I think of when I think of this band.
Yeah.
And every member that's ever been in it. It's about not taking no for an answer, and not taking a horrible situation for, oh, well, I guess we can't be a band anymore. Literally, when everybody quits, and still finding people that want to do this, and finding people that can not only do it. I knew that when I rebuilt this band, I couldn't rebuild this band and it be the same.
Yeah.
I knew that if I was going to do it, I had to make it better. That's the only way anybody would accept it, is if it was better.
Yeah.
And I had to go out, and I did it. I went out and I built a better band. For folks that haven't seen us yet, a lot of folks that haven't seen the band are still kind of weary. They're like, because at that point, if you've seen us any over the last 8 years, that wasn't just the band. That was family for a lot of people.
Yeah.
We got to see a lot of people, 2, 3, 4 times a year, and our band became not a band anymore. It became like a member of their family.
Yeah.
So when you're replacing an entire band or an entire side of the family, I've been equating it to bringing a new girl home for the holidays.
Yeah.
And you got the crazy grandma who's like, well, what happened to the other one? I liked the other one. What'd you do to mess it up? And then you have to explain to grandma that, like, that relationship wasn't working for you, and that this one is much better for where you are in life now.
Yeah.
And, after 2 or 3 Christmases, grandma starts spelling her name right on the presents, and she becomes part of the family again. I told the boys coming into this that there was going to be a lot of that. There was going to be a lot of fans that questioned, are they as good as the old band?
Yeah.
And not one person has come up and said it. Not one person has come up and talked to me and said, you know what, man, like, you really took a step back with this one. This band is special. This band is not just on a record. This band, touring wise, is special. There's a new energy to the shows. There's a gross amount of positivity at the shows. Everybody who's on that stage wants to be on that stage. And there's no denying it. You can't watch this show for 90 minutes and be like, oh, they're faking it, or they're like, it's just sheer adrenaline and happiness.
Yeah, and it's so interesting you mentioned that, because I've only seen this band once, and that was in Dallas. So when Florida and Michigan were playing, I flew out there for that, and y'all happened to be playing that night. So some buddies of ours
you
just
got
went.
to see the Granada Theater show.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
Everybody was having a great time.
That was the second show we ever played together.
Yeah. You mentioned that. And That's crazy.
That's nuts. Yeah. Like the boys rehearsed without me for almost 2 months before I even got there.
Oh wow.
So like they knew the songs front and back.
Yeah.
And then when I got there, we practiced a week with just me there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we took it on the road. And from day one, people were like, "There's no way this is your first, second, third, fourth
Crazy,
show."
man.
We're like, "Yeah, it is." And that's all a testament to the band. I know every front man says, "Oh man, my band." This band is special.
Awesome.
I've never played with a band like this before.
Yeah.
They do all the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
And they all want to be here. That's the big thing. It's like the old band, when we started the old band, everyone was where we are now. Mindset wise, everybody was excited, everybody was happy to be here, everybody was really like kind of chomping at the bit to get on the road and play songs for people.
Yeah.
And over the course of a decade, that desire fades and priorities fade and priorities change. I'm not going to say fade, because those guys still had things that they were passionate about, that it just wasn't being in this band anymore.
Right.
And over the course of a decade, it faded to the point where they didn't feel like they could make music with me anymore. And so they all left. February 2017, they parted ways. They told me they did not want to play music with me. And that was a big crossroads for me, was do I continue this solo thing? Because I had the BJ Barham like solo record that came out the year before. It's like, do I continue on as a solo artist, or do I put American Aquarium together? And then I realized that those guys weren't the original members. I've had 32 members in this band in 12 years. That as long as I was still willing to sing the songs, and as long as I was still willing to write the kind of music that American Aquarium is known for, that the band could always exist as long as I was willing to do it. And so that's when I got myself together. I had like 2 weeks of feeling sorry for myself and the alt country Eeyore, just kind of like walking around the house and, oh, woe is me, my band quit,
Yeah.
And I tell everybody, my wife pretty much gave me 2 weeks of feeling sorry for myself, and then she said, you can either bitch about it or you can change it. And so I went out and I changed it. I put together a band that is fantastic. It's the first time I play with anybody that isn't like a friend of a friend. The band started with a bunch of kids I went to college with, and then as one person left, they would replace it with like, oh, I got a friend who plays guitar, like let's get him, or I know this guy who plays drums, let's get him. That's how everybody came into the band. Yeah. And this is the first time where I went out and I got professional musicians, like hired guns, if you will. Sure. Like went out and found guys that like what they do for a living is they play in bands. And they've done it since they were 18, and they're all in their 30s, and they're all married, and they all have some of them have kids, and so it's like they're at a different point in their life. I wasn't going out and getting a bunch of 18-year-olds and trying to convince them to hit the road with me.
That's got to make a huge difference for your quality of life too.
Huge.
Given where you are,
one of the other guys is sober, so like 2/5 of the band is sober.
That's great.
And everybody else is up in their 30s, so everybody else is at the point where it's like they know what social drinking is, and they know what getting fucked up is, and they're past. Like nobody gets hammered before shows. Yeah. It's like, they drink because it's fun. They don't drink to cope with anything.
Right.
And so it's been a great environment.
Well, that's how you're gonna get, and that's a huge part of how you're gonna get the performances that you're getting too.
Exactly. Everybody, the guys that are drinking are having 1 or 2 beers before the show, and then walking on stage and killing it. Yeah. And then after the show, they can go to a bar all they want and stumble back to the bus, and as long as they're here before we leave, I don't care. Yeah. I told him, I was like, this is a job. Yep. And the show is the most important part of our job. Yep. And so we're very, very lucky at this point now that, I'm at a point where I can have guys that take it that serious. Yeah. That treat it like a 9 to 5, and it shows on stage. It's like this 90 minutes that we get to play every day is like their favorite time of the day. Yeah. And it just wasn't that with the last band. It started being their favorite, but like I said, you go a decade in with just about anything, and priorities shift, personalities change, people change. So I probably answered a bunch of your questions just up front.
Well, I mean, which is great. I want to dive deep into the record a little bit, but and then I mean, there's so much there though. Like And I'm so happy for y'all, and it's so good to
Thanks,
see
man.
that things are going so well. I'm so glad you're back here too, playing Wills.
It has been over 3 years since the band played here.
Too long.
April 2015 is when the band played here.
I remember it. I wrote about it.
And the only reason I remember was because that was the night that everything started falling apart.
No shit.
In the band, yeah.
Really?
We got done sound checking. Everybody was in a terrible mood. We were like 4 weeks into a tour or something. It was just a crappy tour. Nobody was we weren't doing really great numbers. I think everybody was bad on sleep or something. It was just a bad day.
Yeah.
So we got done sound checking, and all the guys were complaining about how they hated, why were we doing this tour? Why were we doing this? They hated it, blah, blah. And at the end of sound check, I told them, I was like, well, if you don't like it, you can all leave. And I was like, nobody's forcing you to be here. And that was the day that I took it. Like, I went into kind of self-preservation mode. As soon as I got done with the sound check, I went back to our hotel room and I started the BJ Barham Twitter page. I started the BJ Barham Facebook page. I booked a summer tour, and I started making plans to write a record.
And that was after the show
That
here.
was
That's
after
really
the last
interesting.
Will show.
That was the one where the guy was up front. He's a big old dude. He was drunk. Guy was up front. He was yelling every lyric back at you, and you looked at him and you go, "Your passion is greater than this machine."
Yeah. It was one of those things where I clearly remember that night, because I told the boys when we got here, like, when was the last time you played here? It was like a little over 3 years ago, with the band. I played here solo almost every summer.
Yeah.
But with the band, it's been since April 2015. I remember we were selling flamingo posters for the big Florida run at the merch. I remember it so clearly.
Yeah.
And that was the day that I literally went back to our hotel room after sound check and started focusing on this. It was the first day that I admitted to myself, this band's not going to last.
Wow. That's really interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Because I was there, and for me as a fan, it was just a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
I had a great time.
The boys could put on a face.
Yeah, they were great.
They could, because at the end of the day, it was also a job for them too.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, we'd been playing together for 10 years. There wasn't I wasn't afraid of them messing the songs up. They played them every night for 10 years.
Yeah.
So the shows got to a point where no matter how they felt, the shows were still going to be good.
Sure.
From a technical aspect.
Yeah, yeah.
We were still going to play the shows. But when you see the show tonight, you'll understand what I'm talking about, the energy and the positivity.
Yeah.
Because there's a difference between just playing through the songs and then playing through the songs with fervor, and playing through the songs with passion, and playing through the songs with when you look at everybody on stage and everybody's smiling and yelling at each other, like excited for a solo and excited for this one big part. It's a different monster now.
That's great, man.
And it's not knocking anything the old band did, because I would have never appreciated this band as much if it weren't for them.
Sure.
So it's one of those things where I don't really talk to the old guys too much, but if I could, I would just tell them thank you, because I would have never fired those guys. I would have never got a cleaned house. But by them quitting, it allowed me to build a band of people that wanted to be here.
And that's okay. And it's
it's
okay,
totally okay.
And it's okay that you had your 2 weeks. You had your 2 weeks to deal with it, because of course you did. That's a long relationship.
It was, and that's exactly what it was. It was sulking after breaking up with 5 of my best friends.
Yeah. That's totally normal.
And going into this, I tell people, I'm like, I miss the old guys too.
Yeah.
I miss what we had.
Sure.
The good times. I miss all the great times we had. But those guys, a lot of those guys have found different callings, and they're happier now, and they're better people now.
Right.
There's a couple of them that have kind of, they're still kind of angry.
Oh, interesting.
Because they felt like their hand was forced, because a bunch of the guys quit, and then they quit because they didn't think that I would be willing to put the work in.
Huh.
Which is
the work in the relationships?
The work into rebuilding the band.
Oh, interesting.
So they quit kind of with the thought, if all of us quit, there's no way he's going to rebuild this thing, right?
Where do you think they got? Because that's kind of your MO.
That's completely against my ethos as a human being.
Yeah. I wonder where that came from.
I'm a worker.
Feelings?
I'm a worker.
Yeah.
It was one. I think it was maybe they didn't want to put in the work. Maybe they didn't want to put in the time of training.
Sure.
3 or 4 new players.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was, but I know for a fact that they all quit on me. I remember where we were. We were sitting in a room in February, road trip to Raleigh.
Yeah.
The 3rd road trip to Raleigh. We sat in a conference room, and I thought we were going into that conference room to talk about the upcoming year. of touring.
Uh-huh.
And we walked in there, and they all said, we need to talk about something before we get to like the matters at hand. We're all walking away from this thing, every one of them.
Whoa.
So like it doesn't matter to me like what story gets told. Like if anybody felt like they were forced, nobody was forced out.
Yeah.
Nobody was given the boot. Nobody was fired. Everyone quit.
Yeah.
And so if there's any hard feelings for that, that's not on me.
Yeah.
It took me a while to get to that point of
Yeah.
not putting the blame on me. I felt terrible for until this new band started playing. Until after this new band started playing.
That's tough because you're the leader of the band.
I'm the leader of the band, and I couldn't keep them together. So I started just blaming myself.
Yeah.
And I started looking back, and I started thinking, like, why do people quit bands? Is it money? No. Everybody was getting paid great. Everybody was tied. Everybody was the owner of the business. They weren't getting paid per show. They were getting paid percentages of profits, which is far more than per show. I was okay. And then I tied everybody into my publishing. So they were getting paid for, like, anytime I got paid, they got paid.
That's great.
So it was like, okay, money's not a thing. It's touring. And it's like every year since 2012, we have taken steps back at touring less, staying home more. I was like, so it's not a touring thing. And at the end of the day, like I had to suck up my pride and say, it was me. Everything else was going great in the band relationship. Like as far as like reasons people quit bands.
Yeah.
The only thing was me. And it was like, was I that hard to deal with where they didn't feel like they could be in a band with me?
Huh.
And so when I started this band, like everything that I considered that I could have done wrong in that band, I was up front with these guys. I was like, this is why they might have quit. So if you see me doing anything you don't like, transparency is key. Like talk to me.
Yeah.
Like if I say something that's out of line, tell me. Like I want to make sure that I'm growing as a person, growing as a band leader, growing as a musician, growing up as a small business owner.
Yeah.
And so these guys have been great because they're like, there's no problems. Everything's good.
Huh.
Because since they've been in the band, you know, the shows, the crowds have doubled and tripled in most markets. We're in a bus.
Yeah.
We have a record that's in the top 10 of the Billboard charts in all 3 categories.
That's so good.
They're not complaining at
Yeah.
all because really and truly, it's like all the dark days were before they got here.
Yeah.
And they've heard stories of the dark days, and fans have come up to them. It's like, last time I saw them, it looked like everybody was going to fight after the show. And they're just at a point where they're in a good spot, and I'm in a good spot.
Good.
And that's the most important thing for me is like I'm able to do something I love doing still.
Yeah.
And be surrounded by people that lift me up.
That's awesome.
It's a glorious thing, man.
Well, where do you go? Like, so that's beautiful. That's wonderful. Also, are you able to get feedback from them, especially on the creative process?
The creative process is the same as it was in the other band. I write the songs. I write these acoustic folk songs.
Yeah.
And I bring them to them in a very skeletal form and just say, what can we add to these songs? Let's add enough to make it special.
Yeah.
But let's not add too much to take away from the song. Because that's a very fine line. Because some bands just throw a shit ton of reverb and a bunch of noise on it and be like, okay, we've made it a song. No, you haven't. Our thing is add as much as we can and then start stripping away layers until we feel like we have served the song fully. And like with Wolves was the only record that I gave up a lot of the creative process.
Oh, interesting.
Up until that point, I wrote songs. Everybody played parts that they thought were good, and I'd say, I like this, I don't like this, I like this, I don't like this. And we made, like Burn Flicker Die was very much done that way.
Yeah.
With Wolves, I felt it slipping. I felt the band walking away. I felt the band crumbling beneath me.
Yeah.
So when we made Wolves, I gave everybody, like, any part you want to come up with, like, I'm still writing the songs, I'm still writing the structure, but you'll notice with Wolves, there's a lot of weird musical moments.
For sure. It's a very different record.
It's a very different record, and a lot of times, some of those musical moments don't seem like they belonged in the song. And we cut away a lot of them.
Yeah.
Because Brad Cook was producing that record. He was really great about being like, that's a cool musical part, but it doesn't fit the song. It doesn't serve the song. What is this thing doing here? So you have these moments, like when we were relearning the songs with the new band. They're like, why is this here? Like when we were doing like End Over End.
Yeah.
End Over End's like a really plaintive acoustic, like song about being remorseful of like watching a lover fade away.
Yeah.
And then there's this weird musical break in the middle of it. It's almost like a key change, but it's not a key change.
Yeah.
I guess technically it could be a key change that the boys wanted to throw in there, and it seems forced, and it sounds forced because it was forced.
Yeah.
And there's a few of those moments throughout the record where it's like, did we really need that moment?
Yeah.
And the answer is more than likely no, but I didn't say no.
Right.
I let it stay because I was trying to keep a band together. I was struggling
Yeah.
to keep people happy. And when we made things change, it went back to let's serve the song more.
That's great.
And it was really great because we were making a record with John Fulbright, who is a songwriter, like a top tier songwriter. And so when you have a producer that's a songwriter as well, you also have another voice that people respect that say, let's serve the song more. What can we take away instead of what can we add?
Yeah.
And I think with Wolves, the boys wanted to add a lot more to make it more of their record. And in turn, I think it took away from some of the songs.
With things change, so I think I'm still processing because it's pretty new. You know, I'm still listening to it.
We're a month. It's not even a month old yet.
That's crazy.
That's what's nuts.
I've been listening to it a ton, and I think "The World Is on Fire" is my favorite American Aquarium song, which is saying a lot because I've been
There's a lot of folks that have said that.
A big fan for a long time.
That song comes out and punches you in the throat.
It does
from the jump.
And I wonder if because that part when you were talking about that idea of like. Making sure that the music serves the song, making sure that if you're putting something in there that it's not just there to be there.
Exactly.
That song seems like exactly what you're talking about. You know, as I'm thinking about, especially as it begins, right? She woke up this morning, or she looked out the window and said, "The world's on fire."
And the band just busts through.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
And that's such an evocative lyric too. Like I feel like. Just about any of us, I can guarantee you the people listening to the Marinade feel this way, have had some version of that conversation in the last 2 years 100 times.
I wrote that first verse the morning I woke up after the election.
Yeah.
And I watched my wife cry as we were watching the news. Once the final results had came in, I watched because we were trying to have a child at that point.
Right.
I watched my wife like crying.
Yeah. Being
like, why are we bringing something into this?
Yeah.
You know, if that's not going to make you write a song as an artist, like,
yeah.
Give it up. Put your pen away and go work at a bank. You know, it was one of those moments. And we refer to songs like World's on Fire and Tough Folks and Crooked and Straight as fastballs. You know, there's no church, there's no trying to fancy those up. It's like you put the lyrics out there and you put the proper amount of arrangement behind it and let the song sell itself.
I like that.
You know what I mean? Like you don't need a reverb-soaked guitar solo to take your mind off the subpar lyrics. Like let those lyrics stand on their own, and you just play. You keep them. You support the lyrics.
Yeah.
You play behind those lyrics, and that's you know that comes from the church of Petty. That comes from the church of Springsteen. That comes from the church of every band that you love that has a songwriter in front of a shit hot band.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get out here and say something that's important. You back it up, make it big, make it danceable, make it keep people's attention while I'm talking.
Yeah.
And with World's on Fire, I've got it wrong so many times, but World on Fire, I got it right.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact, and this isn't cockiness, this isn't being conceited. This is just knowing when you hit the sweet spot of the ball.
Right.
And I know 10 years from now, I'll look back on World on Fire and say, I got it right on that one.
Yeah.
There's still songs in our catalog that I go back and I'm like, I got it right.
Yeah.
I got it right. 10 years later, I hit that one square.
Right.
And World on Fire is one of those songs. It's and a lot of people are like, well, you know, did you arrange it on purpose like this? Did you put it first? Yeah, I put it first for a reason.
Yeah.
I wanted people to put that into their CD player, hit play, and I wanted it to come out and say, listen.
Yeah.
Like, because it starts off, it's like this really pretty guitar interlude, then an acoustic guitar, and you're like, okay, I've heard this. This is American Aquarium. It's an acoustic guitar. And then after the first verse, you get throttled.
There's chilling moments in it. There's moments that really give you goosebumps, like we can't give in, we can't give up. Just like you're just as it's building, I'm just going, yeah, fuck yeah.
Oh, the first time I heard this song fully mixed, mastered, like I sat there and my wife, I just kept hitting repeat.
Yeah, good.
I want to hear it one more time. I want to hear it one more time.
That's great.
And we start every set off this tour. We've started every set off with The World's on Fire. It's an attention grabber.
Well,
it lets people know that song's not an accident. That song's not a deep cut or a throwaway. That song is where we're at right now. That song, I want people to know that is I'm leading off with that song. That's an important song to me.
That's some Ricky Henderson shit right there.
Yeah, that's some Ricky Henderson shit, man. Ricky Henderson knows some Ricky Henderson shit. But it's been received really well. When it first came out, there was a couple people who were like, "This is too political. This is too, stick to singing songs. Don't talk about politics." And I told him, I was like, if you're listening to this song and all you're hearing is politics, you're not listening to the song, man.
Yeah. Well, who do you have a lot of that? You get a lot of that?
We've got, I'd say our fan base is 50-50. I'd say our fan base is like 50 to the right, 50 to the left.
See, I would picture most of them being left-leaning.
We have a lot, but we also have a lot of right. And, like, I'm not saying anybody's wrong. I'm not calling anybody stupid or dumb because that gets nothing done.
No.
And I've told people this in interviews. I'm like, I'm about asking questions.
Yep.
I'm about getting a dialogue open. This country was really, 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 really great at dialogue, at having a respectful discussion with people. We used to be so good at it. Even during the Bush administration, the Obama administration, even if we differed in opinions, we could sit down and talk. And then at the end, like, have a drink or change it to college football and talk about something we had in common.
Yep.
It seems like, especially in the last 2 years, those discussions, when you remove respect from a discussion, it becomes an argument. And we've been having a lot of arguments as a country. We've been having a lot of, I'm right, you're wrong. If you don't agree with me, fuck you. And a lot of 20 and 30-year-old friends who are like defriending each other on Facebook.
That's ridiculous.
And just retiring to their bubble, retiring to like being surrounded by like-minded people. Yeah. And that's what's leading to this fracture in our country is nobody wants to talk anymore. And if anybody does, it's like, stop being political, man. Yeah. And it's like, tell Dylan that in the 60s. Tell anybody who has ever seen social change happening in a negative way and speaking up against it. Man, I've told so many people, I'm like, if you disagree with my politics, you got to put up with 2 songs on this new record. And I was like, get out of here with that nonsense. I was like, you can't expect me to write from the vein on my life, my relationships, the road, my band, everything I see, but then tell me, hey, BJ, I need you to cut it off on that whole like world observation thing. I need you to not speak up on that. The most tumultuous time in our country's history that I've seen in my 34 years here. I've never seen a break like this. Yeah. And so telling me to be quiet as an artist, it's like, get out of here, man. I was like, if you want to listen to people that align with just the right, go listen to Nugent. Go listen to Toby Keith and get out of here. You got options. Everybody else, like, whether or not they're going to admit it on an interview or not, if you're an artist, most artists are left-leaning, man. And I hate to break that to anybody out there who's listening that thinks that, like, their favorite artist is, a crazy conservative right-winger, because it's not true. Yeah. It's just not true. The difference is some people just aren't willing to speak up about it. Yeah. Because they're afraid of alienating you. Yeah. They're afraid of alienating that fan base. And I totally get that. Sure. That's why I haven't written about politics ever, because it's like, my parents always told me there's 2 things you don't talk about at the dinner table. It's politics and religion. Yeah. And so I've left that out of so many songs, but it got to a point, especially at this year of my life, being a dad, becoming a dad, realizing that, like, if I don't start speaking up, what kind of example am I setting for my daughter? If I'm afraid of losing a few friends or a few fans because I'm afraid to say what I think, what is that going to teach her? Right. And I've had so many friends from the right come forth, man, we may disagree, but everything I believe in supports you having the right to say what you say, and it takes some balls, especially in the country music world, to come out and say that. Sure. And that's the guys that I want to hang out with. That's the guys that I want to have discussions about. That's the guys that I'll sit down and we'll talk about fiscal policy, and we'll start talking about like real politics instead of just being like using Fox News hashtags. Yeah. Those guys that come at me with like libtard and Killary and emails and snowflake, I'm like, man, we're not going to have a conversation. Right. It's going to be very one-sided because you're already right. You've already made up your mind. You're not willing to listen to why I believe in what I believe. Yeah. And for those people, like, I don't think I want, like, those people hanging around me or my family or my children.
That's the thing that I'm having a hard time with is, like, I really enjoy that discussion. I really enjoy dissent. I can't get sharper if I don't listen to people who have differing opinions from me. I'm not going to get any better.
That's what this record's all about is hearing both sides. Yeah. And reacting to it.
Well, I don't... Sorry.
Because I was so angry after the election. I started writing Worlds on Fire. I was so mad and I was so pissed off. And then I had to sit it off. I had one verse written, and I had to sit it off and say, I'm not going to write this song. I'm not going to write a political I hope he breaks your heart. I'm not going to write this vindictive, fuck you, you're wrong, I'm right, because I would be a hypocrite. I would be doing the exact same stuff I'm condemning.
Yeah.
So I sat on it, and I toured the country. I did the Great 48, and the one question I asked everybody at the merch table, like, because you'd have guys walking up in MAGA hats. You'd have guys,
Sure.
Walking up with Trump train shirts on. And I'm like, man, if you don't mind me asking, like, what made you do that? Why? And after you peel back that layer of like, man, you're going to make fun of me. Fuck you. Like, I came for a shot. And I'm like, I genuinely want to hear why. Like, I'm not going to say one bad word to you. And the overwhelming response was, the right forgot about us. The left forgot about us. The right is focused on the rich. The left is focused on the poor. There's this dying middle class out there that is forgotten about.
Mm.
And their answer was, what did we have to lose? Wild card.
Damn.
Maverick, renegade.
Yeah.
This guy was promising to bring back jobs that have been dead for 30 years.
Yep.
What do we have to lose? We listened to the Bush administration. They did nothing for the middle class.
Yep.
We listened to the Obama administration. They did nothing for the middle class. And it was at that point, after 3 months of hearing that story over and over again, that I wasn't mad anymore. I felt bad.
Mm-hmm.
That a large subset of the American population was desperate enough to where they felt like that was their only hope. They had lost all faith in the political system. They weren't heard.
Yeah.
They were tired of not being heard.
Yeah.
And so and that was the eye-opening thing for me. It was like, holy shit, like I had it all wrong.
People like the people in Micah Schnabel's book that I see sitting over there on your
Yeah.
characters like that.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. It's
I got my copy too.
And it's one of those things that, and I try to, and my friends from the left disagree with me. They're like, you're wrong. And I'm like, no, I'm not wrong. I was like, I've talked to these people.
Yeah.
I've talked to the guy in Lincoln, Nebraska. I've talked to the guy in South Dakota. I've talked to the guy in Montana. I've talked to the guy in Texas. I've talked to the guy in South Carolina. It's all the same. It's like, don't get me wrong. There's a very small subset of the people that voted that are hateful, bigoted, misogynistic, hate mongers.
Right.
But that's a very small percentage of who voted for Trump.
Yeah. And there are a lot of people who I think don't recognize just how hateful some of the stances that the administration has taken are. Like, they don't process it in that way.
No.
You know what I mean?
It's like I said, I'm not mad. I'm not mad anymore. I was mad for a couple months.
Yeah.
Now I want to figure out how we can convince these people that the people they're voting for do not have their best interest in mind at all.
Right. Well, I think that's an interesting question. Is like one of the things that I tried to do for the last 2 years, pretty incessantly, was really work on changing the hearts and minds of the people that I love who feel that way. My mom, my dad, my uncle, my aunt, the family members who voted for Trump and will do it again in 2020, and who feel I kept trying to fix it, and then I finally realized like they got to make a decision for themselves, and I'm just beating my head against the wall. I got to just keep making sure that I am having a dialogue, that I'm not getting frustrated and allowing my frustration to take over.
100%. Because when you get frustrated, you start saying vindictive, mean things, and that's the quickest way to turn somebody off, is telling them, you're stupid, you're wrong, you're an idiot. You're never going to have any kind of change that way. And you're not serving your own interests in that way. You're not serving their interests. A lot of the people that voted for right aren't just like these nameless people. They're like my friends. They're my family.
Yep.
They're people I went to high school with. They're people I went to college with. I know these people.
Yep.
I know that they're good people at heart. I know that for a fact. And there's nothing anyone can say that change. I get it. Like, well, if they voted for them, they might not be bigots or misogynists, but they're okay with one.
Right.
And I get that. I see that side of the argument.
Sure.
But I know these guys that I grew up with, and I've stood beside for 20 years, and I'm like, they're good people. I was like, they're just in a tight spot.
Yep.
I was like, we have to talk about it. That's the only way to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because and I've never understood how the party of the rich became the party that the poor vote for. It's always blown my mind.
Yeah.
And it seems like every election, you're like, there's no way they're going to fall for it again. And it happens.
Well, and I'm really looking forward to next week, and I'm going hiking with my buddy Bill. And he voted for Trump, but he's a chemical engineer.
That's wild.
He's a fucking genius.
That's wild.
He's one of the smartest people I know. And we went to college together. We've gone hiking together every year for the last 10 years. And every time we get out there on the trail and we don't have any distractions, we can sit and have a real dialogue. And he'll say some shit that I'm like, you know what? I don't agree with you, but finally I heard it put that way.
Yeah.
You know, and it's really helpful.
Anytime two articulate people get together and talk about things like in an open arena, it's great, because there's plenty of my Republican friends that we have discussions.
Right.
And it's like, I totally understand why you feel that way.
Yeah.
Don't agree with it.
Right.
Might never agree with it.
Yeah.
But I totally get it now, like why you feel that way. It's the people that are that have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah.
That fall for all the Facebook news ads.
Yeah.
Like I heard a lady, we were sitting in on Rocky Mount, Virginia. We were having lunch at a cafe. And it was the week after all of the North Korea stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like when Trump was over in Singapore and talking and stuff like that. And she didn't take anything away from it except for, she was like, did you hear about Trump, like de-arming North Korea of their nuclear weapons? She's like, this is the exact words. God is working through that man. That's what she took away from that week meeting.
That's amazing.
And I was on tour with Corey Brandon, and me and Corey were having breakfast, and we both looked at each other and we were like, did you hear that? Did you really hear that? And then it was that moment of realizing, like, oh, these people, and her exact thing was, I don't watch the news anymore, I have Facebook.
Oh my goodness.
Those are her exact words.
Wow.
I don't watch the news anymore, I have Facebook.
Explains a lot.
And explains a lot. You know, it's like, because Facebook allows you to defriend anybody you don't agree with, to the point where you're sitting in a bubble of about 300 to 400 of your friends that you do agree with. So the only thing you're seeing every day is the shit that you're force feeding each other, which is usually just wrong. It's on both sides too. It's the same way with the left.
Yep.
It's why the left was so surprised about the election outcome.
Yep.
Anybody that's toured rural America, any of 2016, was not surprised in the slightest.
My partner Chris and I talk about it a lot. We talk about how we surround ourselves with like-minded people, and that it's dangerous. I mean, it's really dangerous. Like,
the left saw how dangerous it is.
Yeah.
We like to pretend that the right's the only one getting all their news from Facebook and not listening and not looking into the facts. The left completely dismissed a grassroots movement that was in front of us the whole time.
Yep.
And like I said, I grew up in a small town, so every time I went back to visit, as soon as you get outside of the city limits of Raleigh, those blue signs turn red real quick, and there's a lot more of them.
Yep.
And it's like, it didn't surprise me. I saw it coming.
Yeah.
You know, you saw it happening, but none of my Facebook friends saw it happening, because we lived in this insular bubble where we surround ourselves with everyone that agrees with us, and we jerk each other off because, you know, say, oh yeah, I like that too. Aha. But we don't let anybody that comes in with any words of dissension, block. Defriend. It's like, you're an idiot, man. Let's gang up on him.
Yeah.
And it's like,
so what do you do to combat that, and what are you consuming? Not necessarily just politically, but books, music, that kind of thing now.
Trying to talk to friends, trying to start a conversation with anybody, and especially friends I know that feel differently than me.
Yeah.
And just let them know, like, I'm not judging you, man. I just want to hear why.
Yeah.
Like, if you made a decision, you have to be able to back it up. If not, I have no respect for you. If you just blindly made a decision because everybody else did it, or because your parents did it, or because that's what you were taught, then I can't respect you. But if you did it and you have reasons, I want to hear them.
Sure.
And I'll respect the shit out of them.
Yeah.
For me, it's just about dialogue. It's about keeping it open. It's about talking to people. Because that's something this country does not do enough of. We might think we do. We yell at each other a lot.
Yeah.
We don't talk to each other a lot.
That's an interesting point.
And that's a shitty thing. But
so what else? What are you listening to now? What are you reading?
Man, I'm reading the new Micah book, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I love it too. I'm about 40 pages in.
This tour, I've been going back, and let's see what I've read this tour. I've read... I'm just running out of... tour is almost over. I went back and I read Walker Percy's Love in the Ruins again. Cormac McCarthy's All the Pretty Horses again.
Oh, yeah, I love that book. One of my favorites.
Sean Hodgman's Vacation Land, a little comedy. And then Rick Bragg, My Southern Journey.
I love Rick Bragg.
Rick Bragg's great.
He's one of my favorites.
That's what I've been... for those listening, we just went through the cabinets of my room. That's what I've been listening, and then I was in... that's what I've been reading, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And we were in Columbus, and Micah came out to the show and brought me a copy of the book.
Oh, dope. He's going to be here in 2 days.
Oh, I know. I saw his
Yeah.
Florida schedule. We're literally, I think he's in Jacksonville tonight. We're in Jacksonville like on Wednesday.
Oh, wow.
So we're literally just cutting around
Yeah.
each other. But he's one of my favorite people.
Yeah.
One of my favorite lyricists. I don't think people give him enough credit for being the genius that he is.
I agree.
Which sucks because, every time I get a chance to be a spokesman for him, I take that chance.
Yeah, he was episode 3 of my show, and
He's so brilliant,
he's
man.
so smart.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing,
and the nicest dude in the world.
so nice. He's so kind. And it's his episode and your episode are the 2 that people really get into. They're the 2 episodes that people say, and a lot of times it's songwriters. So like, for example, Casey Anderson started listening to my show because, and he has said such nice things about you.
Oh,
he said,
Casey's a fucking sweetheart. I've
he's
known that
great.
man for a long time.
He told me that a huge part of why he decided to get back into playing music was because of something that you said to encourage him.
Oh yeah, I think I told him he was one of my favorite writers. Like his records were amazing. He's got a new one coming out.
I know. He sent me a copy. I've been loving it.
He's he's one of my favorite people, and
that's great.
Through a few missteps,
Sure.
it's life happens.
Yep.
But he's back on the train. I think he's doing well.
He sounds great. I talked to him on last week sometime.
Good.
Yeah.
I always see him. Anytime I'm out on the West Coast, I always see him, and I think him and his gal are driving around the country supporting the record and vacation/tour. And so he told me he's going to hit me up for some good spots around. I was like, man, I got him.
That's great.
Every time I got him.
That's awesome. I don't want to take much more of your time. You got stuff to do. I wanted to circle back to that idea of sequencing, because you were talking about how The World Is on Fire starts off the record intentionally, and then you said also you've been starting sets with it. This record feels like you were very intentional about the sequencing.
Oh, for sure. So the record is pretty much a side A, side B record.
Yeah.
If you listen to it on vinyl, it's a lot more clear.
Do you have copies with you?
Yeah, I do.
Great.
I do.
Side
Side A is very much a rock and roll record. Side B is very much a country tinged record.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And each side of the record tackles kind of the same things from different musical genres.
Right.
So I've got One Day at a Time, and then I Gave Up the Drinking.
Yeah.
To tackle like sobriety and stuff like that.
Right.
And then the second side of the record, for country fans, they tend to lean more toward that.
Yeah.
And the people that really kind of like the rockier edge.
Yeah.
For the fans of Whiskey Town that like us, they like side B, but for the fans of like Lucero and the Truckers, they like side A.
That's interesting. Those are all my favorite bands.
We did that on purpose because we are very much a band that fully operates in the rock and the country world.
Yep.
Like we're a really good rock and roll band, and we can also be a really great country band.
Yeah.
But we wanted to kind of fully separate those this time, because usually we just interweave them and we seem like this bipolar band of, do they want to be a country band? Do they want to be a rock and roll band? Like, what do they want to be?
Right.
And so this record's very clear. It's like, we can be both.
Yeah.
But we're not going to make you flip-flop back and forth too much.
Yeah.
And the sequence was just about smacking people in the face up front,
letting
them know where this record stood. Mm-hmm. There's a reason that Tough Folks, Crooked and Straight, and The World's on Fire lead off that record. and it's very, very front heavy stacked in our live show too.
Awesome.
Because most of the time when you go to see your favorite band, it's like, oh, they're going to play the stuff off the new record. We're leading with that stuff.
Yeah. Do you think people still feel that way?
I don't think I've felt that way with a lot of bands I've went and saw.
You have?
But I don't think that anybody feels that way with this record.
Right.
Because they're singing along to it.
Yeah. Because when I'm going to see, I want to hear the new stuff. I've heard you play the old stuff. I want to hear the old stuff too. Don't get me wrong. But I've heard you play the old stuff. I haven't heard you play these songs.
I'm one of those guys that, if I've had enough time to digest the record, I'm excited to see it.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about from day one. I'm talking about from May 24th when we started this tour and the record wasn't out yet.
Yeah.
We were leading with the new stuff.
Yeah.
And people were singing along to it.
That's great, man.
They were listening on Spotify, on YouTube, and finding it and listening to it.
That's great.
And it's been great.
You played, I don't remember what it was because you hadn't released anything yet. Back in when you played Dallas, you played 1 or 2 songs from the new record.
I probably played Final Curtain. I may have played Tough Folks.
Okay.
Maybe.
I don't remember. It was only 1 or 2. Well, I love the record.
Thanks,
I
man.
think it's beautiful.
Thank you.
It's my favorite American Aquarium record.
Mine too.
I think you're doing great stuff, and I'm so happy for you.
My brother, he's I love him to death. He's like a conservative, Southern Baptist, small town guy. And so I'm sure he disagrees with a lot of the lyrical content on the record. But he called me up and he was like, "Hey, listen to the new record." I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I just want to let you know that this is your best record." He said, "This is the most concise the songs have ever been."
Wow.
And I was like, "Thanks, man." He's like, "I don't agree with it all." And he's like, "There's other songs that I like better than some of the songs on here." But he's like, as far as from a start to finish record, he's like, this is the best thing you've ever done.
Oh, that's huge, BJ.
And like my brother, me and him, like we love each other and we're family. We don't compliment each other too much.
Yeah.
And so for him to go out of his way to disagree with the record and still say like, this is the best thing you've ever released, I don't give a shit what any review says.
That's
like,
great, man.
My brother likes this record.
Yeah.
And like, that's the biggest thing for me is like, and like he said, and I agree with him.
Yeah.
There's songs off of the record that fans are always going to love better.
Mm-hmm.
Or not always. I take that back. From first listen, there's people that are going to come to the show like, yeah, I like that new record, but play Burn, Flick, or Die, play I Hope Breaks Your Heart, play Wolves,
Sure.
play, whatever your favorite American Aquarium song is.
Yeah.
And he's like, but as far as a record, this stands up.
That's amazing.
And I was like, thanks, man.
That's great.
And I don't disagree with him. I think it's from start to finish, I'm proud of all 10 of those songs.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. And we play all 10 of those songs in the set.
Oh, great.
This is the only record that we not every night, obviously.
Oh.
We only,
I was like, damn, that's fun.
We only have every night we play between 19 and 23 songs.
Okay.
So if we were to play over, it really cuts away from a lot of the stuff. But we're playing the list of the songs on this tour is like scary.
Oh, cool.
Like we're playing almost 60 songs from the American Aquarium catalog.
Yeah.
And every night we pick 23 or 24 of them and go strong. We play at least 6 songs off the new record every night. So it's heavy on the new record.
Right.
And that's all chronological going from the new record to the old record.
Right.
But
I'm looking at he's got a handwritten list of the songs, those of you.
So every night that's kind of like my word bank.
That's great.
And my song bank to go to and pull 24 from there. And it's neat as a songwriter to go back and look at a page like that.
Yeah.
And realize oh wow, Joe Pug came and saw our show in DC, and we had an hour and a half set, and his first words to me after the show were, "I forgot how deep a catalog you had, man."
Oh wow.
He's like 12 years in, 7 full-length records.
Yeah.
He's like, "I forgot how concise of an hour and a half you can get." He's
wow.
like, "You're playing the hits, you're playing the new record, you're playing a couple B-sides, and the crowd is following that ride the whole way." He's
That's great.
"I forgot how much stuff you had that is good."
That's gotta feel good, especially coming from somebody Joe Pug.
Pug's
he's
Pug's,
so good.
Pug's one of my he's one of my dearest friends in this business. He's one of my favorite human beings.
Yeah.
So anytime he says anything kind, I take it.
Well, and you had another huge compliment the other day. You posted with Brian Koppelman.
Yeah, I had lunch with
Holy
Brian in New York when we were up there. He has been a big fan of a record. He's had nothing but good things to say.
Awesome.
And he sat me down and told me it was one of the best records of the last couple of years.
That's huge.
And it was huge for me. It was, because he's had such an illustrious career in the music business, and now and then he just randomly one day decided to be a screenwriter, and then he wrote Rounders and Ocean's 13, and now he's doing Billions on Showtime.
He's also got one of the best podcasts out there.
Yeah,
I love
it. We're trying to find time for me to do his podcast. One of these days, I'm going to make that happen.
That's awesome.
Even if I have to fly out to New York for a day and make it happen.
Sure.
But yeah, he's one of the good guys, man.
That's great.
It's
got to feel good.
It does not suck.
Yeah.
That is true. It's a good feeling to have contemporaries and people that I respect come out and say "Oh shit, this record's. I've liked you before, but I love this record."
Yeah.
That's a good feeling.
Yeah.
And now it's just about getting back on the horse and writing a better record than this.
Yeah, well, that's fun. That's a fun challenge.
That's the fun part, man.
Yeah.
Is trying to make your newest record, your best record.
Yeah.
And as long as we keep climbing that hill, I'm happy, man.
That's awesome.
I don't ever want to make something that somebody says this isn't as good as your last thing.
Yeah.
Because that's when your career starts dipping.
Right. Well, this one's the best. And
Thanks,
thank
man.
you so much.
I appreciate you taking the time. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
man, for sure.
All right.
Heck yeah.
Somewhere between hypocrite and hallelujah. 6 generations, barely getting by. 6 generations of hey, what's it to ya? When the only thing harder than the work is the luck, the outcomes as hopeful as the evening news. And last November, I saw firsthand what desperation makes good people do. Life ain't fair. Saddle up, boy, and see it through. Tough times don't last, tough folks do. See, I come from a long line of Carolina farmers. For years, tobacco was the answer. It kept the lights on and put food on the table, till the doctor started calling it cancer. So we took to the hills of the Blue Ridge Mountains with a harvest of corn and some copper line. And we found you can get a little slice of heaven and some sure-east water and a whole lot of time. Life ain't fair. Saddle up, boy, and see it through. Tough times don't last, all the tough folks do.
BJ Barham, y'all. Thank you so much, BJ, for making a return trip into the Marinade. BJ went on to play the most incredible set with the new lineup of American Aquarium. I've mentioned on the show before that I was a little bit hesitant to really commit to the new lineup because I love the old guys, and I got a chance to kind of get to know them somewhat personally, but also on a level of just going to the shows and having that communal atmosphere and connecting in the way that BJ mentioned during our conversation. But the new lineup is outstanding. They're absolutely amazing. This new record is one that I keep getting down on. I can't get enough of. It's a beautiful vinyl too. I bought the vinyl at the show, and if you're into vinyl, I highly recommend that you invest in that as well. BJ's set with American Aquarium, as I said, was amazing. It was a magical night with Hannah Harber playing a fantastic set of her own at the beginning, and then Travis Meadows taking us to church, and then American Aquarium really burning the roof off of Will's Pub. Really, truly magical, beautiful night. Go catch American Aquarium on the second leg of their tour if they're coming your way. They're starting very, very soon, and I know they're heading to Texas and some other dates, so check out AmericanAquarium.com and see if the boys are headed your way. Don't miss it if they're coming your way, because they are so fantastic. What I'm getting down on, y'all, Bicycle Race, Transportation, Culture, and Resistance is the book that I'm reading right now by Adonia E. Lugo. It's about sort of the intersection between bicycle travel and race, and how race plays a role in our decisions as a society about bike infrastructure. So interesting. The book I just finished was Caleb Johnson's Treeborn, which I mentioned on the last episode, and it's just unbelievable. Lee Baines III is actually mentioned in the acknowledgments. Lee back from episode 5 of this show, and it's everything that was advertised by Lee at the time. We talked about it during our conversation then, and I just think Caleb is a beautiful writer based on what I've read in this book, and I'm really looking forward to hearing more from him. So check out Treeborn if you haven't already. Bicycle Race is what I'm reading, and I highly recommend it if you have any interest in sort of travel in this country or race, because it covers so much. Music, really listening to Hannah Harber and the Lionhearts' Be Free, which if you are interested in supporting Hannah, she has a Kickstarter, and they fully funded it, but you can still contribute, and that'll allow them to do some other really cool things, including maybe recording more tracks, having some more studio time, things like that. You can check out some of her music on Spotify. I know there's a song on Amazon, at least one on Amazon as well. And then there's several videos you could find on YouTube. Hannah Harber and the Lionhearts, Be Free is the name of the EP that's available now. And then they're going to go into the studio and record a new album. So I'm excited for that. She's an amazing creative, and her own episode of The Marinade with Jason Earle will be coming very soon. We just started talking, y'all. I was just asking her to tell the story of breaking BJ's capo, and turns out there's way too much to Hannah Harber for us just to talk about somebody else. So I appreciate her talking about that moment, but also I can't wait for y'all to hear this person's brain and just how interesting she is in her creative process. We also got a couple other amazing episodes coming up, including Vanessa Jean Speckman and then Micah Schnabel making a return to The Marinade. If you follow us on social media, you've seen that. If you don't follow us on social media, we're at Marinade Podcast on Twitter, Marinade_podcast on Instagram, and Facebook.com/Marinade Podcast on Facebook. Also been listening to Boots Riley. Boots Riley is the mastermind behind Sorry to Bother You, the film that is getting so much press recently. And a lot of people whose opinions I greatly respect have been swearing by this film, which unfortunately I haven't seen yet, but I'm excited to check it out. His music is also really cool, and if you're into hip-hop at all, I highly recommend you check it out. Street Sweeper Social Club is his project with Tom Morello of Rage Against the Machine and Prophets of Rage, and then, of course, his own project, The Night Watchman. And then The Coup is what Casey Anderson recommended. Casey's Hawks and Doves record comes out on July 27th. Can't wait for that, for everybody to hear. From a White Hotel. Still my favorite record of the year, which is saying something considering how many great records there have been this year. So I'm excited for everybody to hear that. The last thing I wanted to tell you about is there is a band, Love Cannon, and the record's called Cover Stories that I've been getting down on. It's pretty cool. It's really hard to explain other than using kind of sweeping generalizations about it being kind of jammy bluegrass sort of style. I'm sure that they're cringing at hearing that, but real groove heavy, danceable, really fun music, and really well done, excellent musicianship. Love Cannon, Cover Stories. It's a bunch of cover songs done in their own style, and I think it's wonderful. So I highly recommend it. Check that out. Thank you all so much for listening. A shout out to our Patreon patrons, and if you have a chance and you can swing it, we'd love for some more support over on patreon.com. Also, just really helps us out if you rate us on iTunes or on Google Play or wherever you listen to podcasts. And if we're not on your platform, just let me know. I think we've got just about everything covered, but if there's some other place you prefer to consume podcasts that we have yet to accommodate, let me know, please. Shoot me an email, marinadepodcast@gmail.com. I love those messages. Keep them coming. Thank you so much for interacting on Twitter as much as you have been. I say it every episode, but I'm going to keep saying it because it does truly mean a lot to me. I got a really personal message recently about how impactful the Travis Meadows episode was. Actually, I've received several messages about the Travis Meadows episode and what he had to say and how much that particular episode touched people. So thank you to Travis again, and thank you to all of you for letting me know what it meant to you and how it has impacted your life, the stories that people like Travis tell. Thank you all so much. I love you. I appreciate you. Cheers, y'all.